I have a question for you. How many potatoes do you have? What are your favorite potato recipes? I guess that's multiple questions, but today we are going to talk about one of the best foods for survival and storage. Hey Provident Preppers, I'm Sam. Welcome back to another episode of Frugal Friendly Foods. Making yet another appearance onto today's Frugal Friendly Foods is potatoes. And today we want to talk more broad strokes about potatoes, not necessarily any specific recipe, but we are going to get to a specific recipe later on. But we're going to start just generalizing everything. Why are potatoes important for your storage? Well, one of the most important things about them is that they have a very high satiety score. There's something called a satiety index. It essentially tells you how well a certain food will keep your body full, keep your stomach full. And potatoes rank among the highest of carbohydrates for that. So for keeping everybody fed and happy in your storage, and most importantly in survival, potatoes are a very good source of food. Another thing is they're very easy to store if you do them right. Potatoes store very well in dark, cold, and low moisture environments. We've done videos on root cellars out of a freezer. We can leave a link down below if you want to go check those out, but that's kind of what we will do. We have 240 pounds of potatoes and we're not even close to maxing that thing out. For a couple of people, that would last pretty much all winter if you were eating potatoes all the time. We can keep potatoes good in there for 6 to 7 months. And they're so cheap. Even my wife and I went and bought some potatoes earlier this week. We didn't buy them in bulk, and we were still getting 10 pounds of potatoes for $3. Very, very inexpensive. So as far as frugal friendly foods, it's got to be among the top. Another option, not quite as frugal friendly, but definitely storage friendly, are potato flakes. A can like this, if you take good care of it, if you keep it out of the elements, will last you for 30-ish years. We usually get ours from the Home Storage Center. It's owned and operated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. If you want to start getting some canned goods there, we'll leave a link down below and you can go check that out. Definitely a good way to go. Now, as far as things about potatoes that we want to remember is that we do not waste them, especially in a storage situation. If you're just eating potatoes casually, you'll throw away the skin. If you boil them, you'll throw away that water. But there's so many things that you can do, especially in those survival situations. Or if you're just curious and you want to try stuff out, the first thing would be the potato skins. I know that a lot of people usually peel their potatoes. I kind of like the skins most of the time, but I know a lot of people don't and they'll just throw them away. But people will put them into things like face creams that they'll make at home, and apparently it's good for acne. It has some cancer fighting and antioxidant benefits, very high in fiber, and it's shown to help people reduce the risk of cancer and heart attack. So there's definitely good things that can be done with the skin, and especially in those survival situations. To be honest, like I said, I like the potato skins. I usually don't take it off. I'll just eat it, especially the way that we like to do our baked potatoes. We'll put a little bit of olive oil on them and a little bit of pink Himalayan salt, and it makes it nice and crunchy on the outside. Another thing that you can do when you boil potatoes is you can keep that leftover water, and it goes really well in bread. If you've ever heard of potato bread, that's how that works. You can also use that water for making gravies. If you're rinsing the potatoes, you can keep that and get rid of the water, and you'll be left over with potato starch, which is in a lot of recipes. And from what I understand, when you use potato starch to help bread your fried chicken, it makes it extra crispy. And just a little extra something with extra potatoes that you may have in the fridge, something that my mom has done, is taking, whether it's baked potatoes or fried potatoes, as long as it's kind of a plain potato of sorts, she'll put it into a potato chowder, and it's very good. And that kind of leads us into the next part of that, is you can do so many things with potatoes. You can bake, obviously we talked about potato bread. That's a huge thing. Mashed potatoes, who doesn't love a good mashed potato? Fried potatoes, especially when you're making breakfast, helps give you a little bit of extra carbs when you're having your eggs or your ham or your sausage or your bacon or whatever else. Today, the one that we are going to do is a potato casserole. This is a cheesy potato casserole. In our culture, it's called funeral potatoes, but you call it what you will. Don't have to make it so sad. Potato soups, obviously, we mentioned the chowder, potato bread. There's so many different things. We haven't even scratched the surface. You can do so many things with potatoes. All right, so to get started on our funeral potatoes, country potatoes, whatever you want to call them, cheesy potatoes, we have some simple ingredients. We have 5 potatoes. We have an onion. We got some parsley and rosemary, cornflakes, cheese, cottage cheese, sour cream. We got some bacon bits, not necessary. Definitely a personal preference. And then we've got some water boiling right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna salt this water. And then we are going to try and put the potatoes, just the potatoes, not the onions, into here and not get burned in the process. All right, so we got that. We're gonna cover it and we're gonna wait for 5 minutes. We're not trying to get them so soft that they can be mashable. We're not trying to make mashed potatoes here, but we are trying to get them soft enough to where, you know, they're gonna be ready for us to add more ingredients and for it to all kind of come together, for letting the ingredients marry each other. While we have those in there boiling, we're gonna get to work on, well, I was gonna say the rest of it, pretty much the rest of it. So we have this onion, try and break it up a little bit from the other bits and pieces of it. We're gonna add a cup of sour cream. We are going to add 1.5 cups of cottage cheese. We're using 2%. You can use higher percent, lower percent if you want to. You do whatever you want. Cooking potatoes isn't exactly an exact science. So we got 2 tablespoons of parsley and 1 teaspoon of rosemary. Gonna stir all of that together. I'm actually gonna add a little bit of salt now and add some pepper. Give it a little bit of extra flair. Mix it around some more. Then we have these bacon bits. I'm gonna be very strategic about this. It's probably about 3/4 cup of bacon bits. I put half into the filling itself. And then we're also gonna save about half of that for putting on the top. While you're doing this as well, have your oven preheating to 350 degrees. And when all is said and done, we're gonna end up baking this for about 35 to 40 minutes. One more thing that I forgot to mention, we put cottage cheese in here. Cottage cheese obviously is a great source and a low cost source of protein. And it's a complete protein because it's an animal protein. That's just kind of how it works. Another thing with the sour cream, I love sour cream, but if you're looking for it to be even cheaper and also have a little bit of a kick of protein in there as well, you can swap out Greek yogurt, and it might be a little bit thinner than most sour creams are, but the taste is pretty much the same. And as far as cheap proteins, it's very cheap. All right, it's about time for us to take these potatoes out. As mentioned earlier, we are not gonna throw away this water. We are going to save the water because my mother is going to make some potato bread. And as mentioned, let me see if I can not burn myself. They're just starting to soften, but still have a little bit of bite to them. And that's because they are going to get pretty much fully cooked when they're in the oven. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna add it to our mixing bowl. Gonna demote you for a second. All right, so we're gonna mix all of this around. Takes a little bit of doing, but it's okay, we don't mind a little bit of work. All right, so it's time to assemble this whole mess. We're gonna pour this into our 9x13. You can grease it. I probably would have greased it if I had thought about it, but I'm honestly not that worried about it because it's a potato dish. So I don't know, I guess we'll find out sooner or later. And then what we're gonna do, and this is serious, This is the exact science of making potatoes, the only one. We're gonna sprinkle this cheese on here, nice and even. We've got about a cup of cheese here. You can do more, less, whatever you wanna do. Then we take these corn flakes, which I know some of you are probably yelling at your phone or your computer screen right now saying that this is an atrocity to mankind. Just calm down, try it before you, what's the one thing from Stranger Things, try before you deny? When he's talking about pineapple on pizza, try before you deny. Okay, give this a try before you start yelling. And then we take that other half of our bacon and just kind of plop it on top there. All right, so this is gonna go into the oven for 35, 40 minutes, and then we'll come back and give it a whirl. All right, so in the meantime, Mom had been boiling potatoes to make mashed potatoes, because who doesn't love mashed potatoes? I love mashed potatoes. So we have here 5 potatoes cubed and boiled until they're soft. To that, we have about 2/3 of a stick of butter and about 1/2 of a cup of milk. We kind of melted those together so that, it'd be a little bit more homogeneous. We didn't have to worry about cold butter or cold milk. And then we are gonna throw in some sour cream, because mashed potatoes without sour cream is like, I don't know. In the comment section, what's your iconic duo that you would say mashed potatoes without sour cream is like blank without blank? Comment down below, because I need help. But we're gonna crack some pepper in here, add some salt, and then we're going to use our hand mixer, give this a nice mix. All right, I would like it to be publicly known that my support staff has been fired. That was an absolute disaster. So we're gonna take, what do you call this, an immersion blender? My mom always just called it the rummer thing growing up. So we're gonna try and okay, we're kind of just doing this to taste, because when the last time I followed a recipe for mashed potatoes was? Trick question, I never have, so. Ah, yeah, that's better. Like an uncivilized human being. That's solid. All right, mashed potatoes, you're welcome. So here you can see many different ways that we can use potatoes, not only to make a meal, but also to extend a meal. We got baked potatoes, we got mashed potatoes. We made our gravy with potato water, and then also we have cheesy potatoes that can be used as a meal or as a side. Like I said, potatoes aren't an exact science. You can kind of do whatever you want with them. They're delicious, they're nutritious, and they're really great when you're trying to stay low budget or when you're trying to prepare for long term. So if you guys like this kind of video, go ahead and comment down below, let us know, like the video, and also comment what your favorite potato recipe is. That's about all I got for you. So I'm gonna dig in and I'm gonna eat this stuff. Thanks for being part of the solution.